Well, good evening. It's another Saturday night is upon us, so therefore it means another late night exposure. So I only got two out there tonight. So if you guys want to comment, that would be awesome. Oh, hey Pamela, I thought maybe you'd be the one of the two. So, but we'll give it a few more shakes here. I went to look at my watch that I took off, so I guess it's there. Oh, it's been a week. So we'll give it a moment here and we'll see if we get anybody else to pop on. If not, it's just an intimate three as a group, I guess, this evening. So we will hop on here and we'll. Oh, hey, Megan. Megan and Pamela. So we will get going here momentarily. I'm actually streaming to three places now: my Facebook page, my personal one, Justin Tedford Photography on YouTube, and then Facebook as well. So maybe I'll drum up some more people there. I don't know. So, but we'll see. So I guess if you go, hey, Paul, that is awesome. Which is interesting is if you are on, comment so I can see who's on here because I've got three comments, but my software is only showing one actual person, which is kind of interesting. So Paul, Megan, and Pamela. So we missed you today, Pamela, at Coffee and Clicks, but you're probably busy. So Paul was there, Megan was there, so that was wonderful. So hopefully everybody has had a wonderful, wonderful week. I am still recuperating from my trip, if I could speak. Wow. So, well, we will just get started here, and I guess as people pop in, and you can watch it later if you come in late. So, I got about 43 slides tonight. Yeah, 43. It's a few, so we probably should get started. So let me pop this up. So, understanding light, a secret to great photographs. So I think when we're looking at a lot of things, we always worry about camera gear and lenses and filters and tripods and location, and then composition and what can we do, what we can't do, but we forget about light sometimes. So as you've got questions, just pop them up as always if you've been on, and I will answer them as we go. So let's punch in here. So I love this quote from George Eastman of Kodak. Light makes photography. Embrace light, admire it, love it, but above all, know light. Know how it is for all you are worth, and you will know the key to photography. And that's true. So if you think about photography, it is all about light. If we don't have light, we can't do anything. I couldn't do my live without light. I got light there, I got light back there, and I got light here. If I don't have light, I can't make a photograph, really, truly. So as long as we got light, we're good to go. So tonight we're going to talk about quality of light and different types of light. And then I got a whole bunch of photos to show you to kind of back those things up so you can kind of get an idea in your head of what is side light, what's backlight, front light, all that good stuff. I could talk hours on light, so it's very, very basic. But if you got questions, can't wait to hear about the trip. Oh, yes, you'll see some photos in here tonight. So well, and I'll jump to the end. I almost jumped to the end of the presentation. I don't want to call it presentation, the live. And I'll go through my trip a little bit more there, Pamela. So it was a good trip. So the importance of light. Well, why is light important? Well, obviously, I already mentioned if we don't have light, we can't take a photograph because photography, I think in Greek term or Greek verbiage, whatever you want to call it, means painting with light or light. So, you've got to have light to do this. And light allows us to convey like information. And most importantly, it's going to convey emotion in an image. Whether it's the color of light or how things are lit. I mean, we can make things look super scary with like really hard light, or we make things really nice and happy and soft. And a lot of people say, well, when should I use hard light? When should I use soft light and all this? It just really depends on what you want, is what you're in photograph. Now, like with anything in photography, there's, I've mentioned it on here before. If you have a hammer, that's best for nails, not screws. Could you probably pound a screw in with a hammer? You probably can. It's just probably not going to work as well. So if I'm photographing like a wedding, I could use harsh, hard light, maybe. But let's say a baby. I'm not going to use hard, harsh light on a baby. That's just going to make it look horrible. I want that nice, soft light. So we'll go through those this evening as well. And light also shows brightness and darkness. So we can play with somebody's mind and do a really long 4 or 5 minute exposure at night and make that look like it's daytime. Or you can make a daytime photo with a flash and some fancy gear, and we can make it look like nighttime. So it conveys that motion, it conveys darkness, but it also gives you that atmosphere too. You can make it spooky and all that good stuff, or light and airy in weddings. And so it just really depends. But I think it's the most important element in your photograph. I think you can have the best compositional photo in the world. Everything can be awesome, super. I don't know. You run into Tom Hanks on the street and you make this huge, beautiful photograph, but if light sucks, I guess it's still a sucky photo, right? Who knows? But there's time and places for hard light and soft light and all that stuff. And I'll go through those here as well tonight, like I said. So on to slide 4. So one big thing that I think it's hard to do is that I see a lot of people struggle with is seeing light. Well, how do we see light? Well, we see light all the time. I'm notorious where I can be at work, plugging away on the computer, and I might look out the window to check the weather, and I'll see the light on a tree, and I'm like, wow. And then it's like, oh, back to work. So, but you need one thing that you can do is don't take the camera anywhere. Or maybe the next time you're sitting, I don't know, in a coffee shop reading a book or whatever, and you're sitting next to a big window, study light, look at it. Look at the color and the direction and quality of light, because that's going to start giving you ideas of, oh, this window facing the north might give me this kind of light. Or some people say, Justin, I don't know where the light source is because it's not predominantly where you can see it. Well, if you're trying to figure out how that comes into play, and you want to recreate something similar to that, well, we've got to know where the light source is. Like, I've got a light source there and a light source here. This is my main light. It lights me all up. And that's just a secondary light over there. Well, if I can't see these lights, you can't see it here and you can't see it here. But, this is pretty evenly lit. But if I was in an area where you had the light, you could see shadows. Well, we know when light hits something, it casts a shadow. So you can see, okay, if the shadow is, straight across and real long, that light source is probably pretty low on the horizon, casting that long shadow. And then as we get up, your kind of shadows get tighter to your subject. So just study light, look at it. Like I can do this in my hand and put it at different angles here. This is considered side light. Now you can't see it, but I've got a shadow side and a bright side. So you can play with something like that, or a ball or whatever, and just kind of see how light is affected by the way you position. Pick a ball and a flashlight and move around and see how that shadow changes, but learn to see it. And how do we do that? Well, we also want to, study the light, but we want to figure out, knowing types of light, like what kind of light, like artificial light and natural light. Those I'll go through here in a little bit. Oh, hey, Lindsay. Sorry, I just kind of see a pop in there. I kind of got rolling. And then there's different types of light. Like I said, natural light, artificial light. But then there's like direction of light where, is it side light, front light, back light? There's rim light. And then if you get into the studio lighting world, there's like Rembrandt lighting, there's split lighting in there. There's like 11 or 12 different things, but I wanted to keep it pretty simple tonight. So we're just going to talk about front light, back light, side light. And they all should make pretty much sense, but I'll back it up with some photos here in a little bit. And then you need to know quality of light. So is it harsh light? Is it, or hard light is what people will call it. Is it soft? And at the end, I'll show you a couple things where we can start taking. You can have harsh side light. You can combine these. You can have soft side light. You can have soft front light, harsh front light. So all those kind of things. So it's one of those, is just kind of know it. And you don't need to know this like front and back, in and out, but just kind of know what, because also in like quality of light, you have color of light and things like that. I won't get into color of light tonight, but so no questions so far. Okay. So jumping into here, so what's artificial light? Well, artificial light is pretty easy. It's anything that's not natural light. So it's not natural, like everything I have in here, this is all artificial light. 60-watt LED light. I got a ring light over here, and then I have LED lights. Is that naturally made? No, it's pretty simple. It's artificial light. So anything like a flashlight, LEDs like this is, a lamp, a candle, obviously anything that's not natural light is going to be artificial. Now you can combine, in theory, if it wasn't dark out, I have a window right in front of me. I could open the shades and put front light on me, and I can combine natural light and artificial light. But the big thing is there's artificial light and then natural light. So an example here. This is a one of probably I wouldn't say my suit. Well, it's probably one of my more favorite portraits I've done. This is my brother-in-law Matthew. He's a tattoo artist, if you can't tell. But I went to his shop one time and did a whole bunch of photographs of the staff, and this was super awesome because he's like, you can do whatever you want. There's no. These were like different. Their headshots are like trying to use light. You also use light to, like I said, convey that mood and that kind of tone and atmosphere. You know, Matthew's a super nice guy. He looks really kind of rugged and stuff, and all the tats on all over him. But I wanted to show their personalities through all their portraits. It wasn't a sit down and move to the right and put your head here and tilt it to the side. No glamour shot stuff going on. This was just light. This was a one studio light. And this is kind of what we call split lighting, or side light, side light, where I'll show you some more in a little bit, but we have a dark side and a highlight side and a shadow side. And then another artificial light. It can be your cell phone. So way back when. God, this photo is probably 9 years old now. Seems like yesterday. It's my child. If we only knew what that phone was going to do in the future, right? But that's, I'm lighting. Well, say I didn't purposely do this. She did it herself. If I remember right, she was on the floor and kind of grabbed the phone. It was sitting there and pulled it over. So, it's lighting her face up with natural light. Or sorry, artificial light. Now, this one is a little harder to tell. Some people say, was it natural light? Is it artificial light? It's actually artificial light. It's a one studio strobe balanced with ambient light. Every August, I try to take my kids' photos for the year, kind of like around her birthday. And this was the 2020. So started the pandemic, went out to my friend's farm, and we went out and did some stuff in the evening. So, she posed herself and did all that. But again, it's artificial lighting, because if I didn't use some type of artificial light to light her up, she'd just be kind of flat and boring. And, artificial light is great when you don't have the light you need and you need to make it. And you can make that however you wish. I prefer studio strobes. So quality of light. So what is quality of light? Well, quality of light is really defined as, if I read this word for word, is the size of the light source relative to the subject. Well, what does that mean? So think of it this way, super simple. The larger the light or the light source, and the closer it is to your subject, which just confuses some people, the softer the light is going to be. The smaller the light source, and the farther away it's going to be from your subject, the harsher the light's going to be. And people do that where they're like, oh, that makes no sense. Like they're thinking, oh, it's too bright. I need to move the light farther away. And this is talking artificial light, because normally with natural light, we can't lasso the sun and pull it closer or push it away. So they'll want to move it farther away to get it like not as harsh. Well, it actually makes it harsher because your light source, distance to me, this is arm's length. Yeah, about arm's length away. If I were to move this light way back there, this is like 30-something inch octabox. So that's a pretty big light source. But the farther I move it away, that light source gets smaller. So what also happens is that smaller the light, like I said, the farther away the source, the subject, the harder that light's going to be. But think of it as the sun. Everybody thinks, well, the sun wouldn't be a harsh light source. It shouldn't be, because if we're thinking, big light source, right, softer light, well, really, the sun's this giant ball of fire at 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And it's like 864,000 miles away from Earth, in theory, right? I had to Google that. But if you think about it, when you look in the sky, it's really tiny, right? That's a tiny light source, a far away from us. So therefore, it's a harsh, hard light source. No questions? I can't believe I've answered everybody's questions so far. So hard light. So let's talk about hard light, or you'll hear it as harsh light. And what is hard light? Well, a hard light has a really strong, well-defined shadow. So sometimes if you look at soft light, you can see a shadow, but it kind of starts out real dark and it kind of fades off into oblivion, into nothing. Where hard light, you will see like a really hard line. It's black and it's a sharp line on it, and then whatever is beyond that. and has a lot of contrast. So think of, like, we all know people say, oh, I should really go out as a landscape photographer, or any photographer for that matter, and shoot, especially as a landscape, go really early in the morning. And when that sun starts to get kind of crappy about 10 o'clock, we should cut it off and then not come back till maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon, depending on the time of year, to photograph again. Well, that only gives us what? Let's say the sun rises at, I don't know, 6 a.m. So at 6, that's 3, maybe 4 hours of decent light. 2 good hours of good soft light, and then maybe it kind of falls off the last 2 hours, but still good light. And then what do? We take a break all day, and then we come back for another additional 2 to 4 hours. It's not really a lot of time. And I used to be that way, but now, like when I went down to White Sands, what was I going to do? Go down there? I had only 2 days, well, 2.5 days at the park. What am I going to do? Just go back to the campsite and piddle around, or go to Alamogordo or whatever and hang out? I don't know. So there are photographs to be had in any lighting situation. I don't care if it's hard light, soft light, side light, hard soft light, or hard side light, whatever it may be. You just have to know you just got to learn how to manipulate the light and create a photograph from what is given to you in light, other than just throwing our hands up in the air and saying we're done. I think a lot of people do that, and I used to do it too. And one thing I made a goal of when I went to White Sands is I was not going to stop shooting past 10 o'clock. Was it freaking hard for me? Yes. It was very challenging. But guess what? If we're not uncomfortable, we're not challenged, we're not learning in this whole photography thing. So it made me look at things differently. I think it's easy to find great photographs in nice soft light. It just kind of presents itself. But hard light, we have to work a little bit harder at. There we are. So here's one, Pamela, for you, of the sand dunes. So what does it have? It's hard light. How do we know that? Look at the contrast. The contrast is like really, it's dark shadows. And when I was talking about that hard edged line, there it is. There's no fall off. There's no gradient from solid black to like white in the sand. So again, when I was thinking about photographing in White Sands, I thought, okay, this is what I was thinking all the time. Because it gives you that light. Also, like I said, creates mood and atmosphere. Well, it sets tone. You can make a harsh light source. It's the desert. Yeah, the desert is a very harsh environment. So you can use hard light, harsh light, whatever you want to call it, to that advantage. I was thinking more black and white. So I want very contrasty images. I want whites and blacks and everything in between. So hard light did it. Another example right here. In White Sands again, lonely little bush in the middle of nowhere. And look, how do we tell it's hard light? Look at that shadow off that bush. It's very hard. You can see white, and there's a hard defined line between white and black. This is our shadow. Here's our sand. There's no gradient. Like it kind of goes from here and fades into over to here. It's that hard, contrasty light. So again, most people would want to stop. But think about it with this image is if you were in here and we got rid of that shadow, that bush would look like it's floating. Could I go post-process and remove it? Yes. Can I go post-process and really lighten it up? Yes. Is that what my mind wants to do? Yes. But in this situation, it's hard light. So it, again, makes you feel like, ooh, it's harsh. I mean, it might feel a little hot if you knew it was the desert, but it's not. It was 65, 70 degrees. So it's one of those things where, again, use it to your advantage. And this one right here, again, this one doesn't have the real hard black shadows, but you can see there's contrast to the sand and the shadow. But again, then I use my F22 here to get that little starburst and kind of give you that. Again, it's light. Here I could have used light in a sense where I could have made it really dark. I actually underexposed this by a stop or two, and it was really dark, and I kind of liked it because of the sky, but then it didn't feel like anything really to me. So here I moved my exposure way up and made it much lighter, and therefore, again, it creates that type of mood, that atmosphere. Come on. There we are. And the last one, again, hard light. So sand dunes are rolling. We have really harsh shadows on the shadow side of the dunes, and the highlight side, it's real bright. Again, if I photographed this in the morning, I'll show you some soft light images here in a minute of some other sand dunes. you get that nice, you would have that nice soft transition of shadow to highlight, where here it's just wham bam. That's two things. You know where they're at. So what is diffused light? Well, we have harsh light. So that's really harsh light, contrasty, dark shadows. Well, we have soft light, or people call it diffused light, soft light. This is a diffused light. I've got a soft box. It makes things soft. That light over here, it in theory is diffused light, but to me it's a harder light source because it's not as big and to relative to me as the subject, and it's farther away, but it has no way to really diffuse light other than a plastic circle. To me, this is going to give me a lot nicer light. You know, when you look at it, there's no really hard shadows on me. So that's diffused light, and it's soft and not easily defined shadows. Kind of sometimes can be low contrast, but this is what most people want. If you're doing portraits, babies or people or weddings or landscape photographers, we want nice soft light. So here's one of the sand dunes in the morning. So I have the same image in harsh light. It stinks. I don't like it. So again, there's really no hard black dark shadows. Now we still have shadows. If you look in the foreground, there's some darkness there. When I talk about front light in a little bit, this is a front lit image because the light was right behind me. But I do have some shadows to the left side of those dunes, but it's not that harsh light where it's super black and then the dunes are white. As you can see, it kind of goes from that dark and then there's no real defined line. This was kind of a flat image. Like I said, the low contrast, but I like contrast, so I boost my contrast up in post-process. Any questions so far on anything? No? Okay. So another thing that can happen with your diffused light is clouds. So people are like, oh, it's a cloudy day. I like cloudy days. It's like having a giant softbox for the entire world. You can almost shoot all day long on a cloudy day because it's soft. It's easily diffused light. I like days where we have cloud cover and sun. That makes for dramatic lighting. You might have that beam of light coming through the clouds, lights up just a part of the image. So, you know, it doesn't have to be. I would prefer to have clouds and cloud cover than no clouds whatsoever. I'd like to have at least something there. So in this image, you can see it's very evenly lit as well. Diffused light is usually evenly lit in a sense. You have some shadows, you have some highlights, things like that, but it's not going to be that one extreme to another. There. So this one, again, this is one I did, I don't know, a couple weeks, well, I don't know, a month ago when it snowed. Where was that at, Pamela? Which photo was that? Sorry, I missed it. I'm not looking down there. I'll let you comment real quick. So the one in the barn is just outside Cedar Rapids here. It's a barn I photographed like 8 bajillion times and could never get a photograph and finally found it. Oh, the previous one. So, the fog. Yes. So I forgot about that. That was Glacier National Park. So that was, if you're on the Lake McDonald and you step out to kind of where the boats are, if you've seen the photo that I did with all the boats up on the dock, at Glacier, it's like immediate, like 90 degrees to the left. It's along the bank there. I was on a super, I would think that was probably like the first couple days. Well, I was there more than a couple days, but I'd say probably the first day and a half where I was just soupy, drab, crappy weather. That makes for great photographs too. I didn't like being cold and wet, but guess what? It made for great photos. So this one, again, here, it's evenly lit. You know, it's a nice soft light. There's no harsh shadows. There's some shadows, you know, but not like crazy hard. You got to look for them. So I love the light when it is right behind a summer storm. You get that crap, they're not going to say crappy light, that horrid, you know, thunderstorm that rolls through, and you get that nice, always, it seems, especially if it's in the evening, that nice golden soft light coming off the backside of a storm. That's what this is. Actually, I think this was back home. I was home. We had a tornado or something ways away and lightning and blowing things around. And this was on the backside of it later. So wait out the storm, grab your camera, go out after it creates nice, soft, diffused light. So natural light. So a little bit ago, I talked about the whole, you know, artificial light. Well, now we have natural light. Well, what's natural? It's everything that exists around us that's not artificial. There's nothing in this room right now. It's natural. So the sun, pretty much super easy, right? It's not man-made. Come on. So here's one I did over at White Sands. And this was funny because I don't like photographing the moon because I don't have a big enough lens to usually make it look predominant. And I was sitting there and the light had pretty petered out. It was done. No more. And I thought, okay, I wasn't very far into the park, and that park is only like 14 miles round trip anywho. So I was like, what am I going to do? Go back in the Jeep the Jeep crossover thing that I had and lay in the back all night long for like 4 hours, kind of thing. No, I was like, might as well go explore. So I was actually going farther into the park just to see what the light was. Doesn't mean I have to take a photo. And I noticed all these people standing up on a sand dune, and everybody's got their phones out. Imagine that. Nobody had a camera. So I was like, yeah, whatever. Had to go to the bathroom anywho. So I pulled over, and as I got out, I looked, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the first thing in my mind was, it's dark. I'm going to have to get the tripod out, all this stuff. And I'm like, no, don't really want to. It'd been a long day. So I kind of got lazy, and I thought, well, I want the bushes to kind of be in focus so you can see everything. But if I do that, then I got to get the tripod out. So I got lazy and went 2.8 on the 70 to 200 2.8, focused on my moon and took a picture. And I actually had to underexpose this pretty decent so the moon wasn't just a blob of white circle. And I overlooked this photo all this week. Every night I looked at it, man. And then this morning last night I got on, and for some reason I thought, what do I have to lose than try to edit it, right? And then I kind of pulled this one out. I was like, ooh, I kind of like it, that. But again, it's natural light. It's very evenly lit. It was kind of right at that point where the sun hadn't set, and it wasn't completely darkness, so we could see some of it, and you got that gradient from dark to white. So this is one I did on, guess what, my cell phone back in September. This is when we were flying to Disney. Emma was sitting on the other side of the row from me on the plane, and I was on my phone, looking around, thinking around, and I saw her looking out because this was very cloudy and rainy when we took off. And I remember she was really terrified of flying at first. She was kind of crying, and then we got up above the clouds after we did the takeoff, and I said, just open your window, and this nice, beautiful sunset was there. And she's like, Dad, look at this. I was super excited. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, look out the window so I can take a photo. And, and after that, she was like glued to this window the entire time, looking out until it got a little dark. And, it's just natural light. I'm lighting her with natural light. It doesn't matter if I'm 36,000 feet in the air, or if I'm 2 feet above the ground. I still got light to work with, and what I liked about it is that little window. I didn't have light coming in from all over the place. It was coming through. It was not like a spotlight, but it was directional light coming right in her and lighting her up. So light can be anywhere that you want to find it. So here's one that I did at a wedding. Yes, I did a wedding. A couple, I don't know. This was May. It was actually my birthday, May 7th of 2022. This was just a candid shot. They wanted some photos in front of a window. So on the right side of this is natural light coming in, crossing over the bride and her daughter. So, I was there. I had a wide angle lens, and I was like, just kind of setting settings and kind of getting things figured out. And they were just having a moment and caught it. So this is probably one of my favorites, just because, it's nice and lit. It's, you still got some shadow. I love natural light, but, when people say, what do I use? Artificial or natural light. I always prefer to go natural light, but sometimes you can't do that because guess what? There is no natural light, or the light is poor. So you have to create light. So that's where we go to the artificial world. But again, a very intimate moment with her daughter, kind of fun, having a moment and laughing, getting ready. So again, I think natural light would have worked better for this image over artificial light. One, I wouldn't have had time to set up a flash, right? I mean, it's happening at the moment, so you use what you got. So let's talk about like direction of light now, like what's front light, what's back light, what's side light. And these are all very straightforward. So front light, obviously that would be if I took this softbox, put it right above my camera, and it shines straight on me. That's front light. Front light is either going to be from behind you, the photographer, or in lighting your subject. So think of this light falling onto your subject. So if I'm the subject, like now for the live, if I put the light, above my camera here, then this is front lit. Or I had the sand dunes in front of me. The light was behind me, so it's front lit. So when you get into these, come on, there we are. So this was kind of, see how it's flat and contrasty? This was a super hazy, cloudy day, but the sun was kind of more, I don't know if it was completely front lit, but it's very low contrast on occasion. You don't get a lot. It's just flat lighting. And again, it's just a tree. Now, if you look at like the trunk of the tree, see how it's not real dark? It's very flat looking. Now, if I would have had side light, I would have had this nice, really dark shadow on one side and a highlight on the other. This is a little hard to see as a three-dimensional image because it's so flat. And that's lighting. Now, can I use flat lighting on a person? Yes. Do I want to? Maybe not, but it depends on that look, that mood that you're trying to convey through with the light. So here's one I did at White Sands. This was pretty much front lit. That was facing, sunrise would have been behind those little trees, but by the time I was there, it was right kind of more back this way. So you can see there's no shadow really to anything. It's just evenly lit. It's kind of flat. One thing I hated about White Sands is that evil blue haze in the back. I cannot get rid of it for anything. So it is what it is. So here's one. This was done up in like Fayette County area, Decorah, Northeast. This is front lit. So the back is really dark. And that was really weird. It was an early morning thunderstorm in the fall. And I was up to do fall colors up that way. And it was actually the sunrise coming up behind me. So it was front lighting, really a kind of boring a subject, really a fence row. But again, if this was side lit, it might be interesting too, things like that. But overall, light can take kind of that boring subject and make it a little bit more exciting. There we are. So, Mesilla, Arizona. Gee, many Christmases. Mesilla, New Mexico. That was kind of like outside Las Cruces, New Mexico. So when I was down there last weekend, I was way early to the hotel on Sunday night, and I thought, well, I'll burn some time. So I was trying to look for ghost towns. They're all like 3 hours away. And I was like, nope. So I'm like, found this town of Mesilla, New Mexico. It's a historical town. It has a mission and a Catholic church. And when I showed up in the morning there, they were still doing services. And it's kind of cool because they have like a square there in the middle of town. And people were out there setting up like a farmer's market almost, like selling jewelry and handmade things. So that was kind of cool. So I just hopped out of the car and I walked every block in this tiny little area. And what I love about New Mexico and the Southwest is color. You can have terracotta walls and bright blue doors. And what I liked was this was a detail shot of a grander image that I did. But what I loved about it was the texture on the door. Now, one thing with side light, if you side light something, it will pick up texture in a door more, or sand or whatever it is if it's side lit. But here, it was kind of front lit. So the sun was behind me, So again, it's evenly lit. And what I loved about this door was all the paint's kind of missing. At one time, this door was completely blue and no one's ever repainted it and the paint's flaked away. So backlight. Well, what's backlight? Super easy. Oh, jump back. It got all crazy on me. So just like it sounds, the light source is behind your subject. So think silhouettes. So now we'll jump into the first photo. So there we are. Some yucca plants in White Sands. Again, sunrise. I was photographing coming into the park. I was photographing everything front lit. Well, then as I got deeper into the park, I started looking what used to be behind me. And now I'm getting all these silhouetted sand dunes. And then like they were okay, but they're kind of boring backlit. So then what happened was I ended up going into finding things that I could turn into something interesting. So these little yucca plants. What I liked about it was that one on the left's a little sad. He's flopped over. So, something a little bit different. But I think a lot of times we don't, as landscape photographers, we want to either do side light or front light. Portrait photographers seem to want to do backlit. Seems like always somebody wants to do a backlit portrait at a wedding or something. So, but all these are just tools you can have in your toolbox. So again, barn, sunrise, again, Old grain, nah, not a bin, but yeah, sure. I'll come up with a term later. You know, sunrise behind it, everything turns into a silhouette. Now, can I backlight something and not have a silhouette? Yes. I could go into post process and open up the shadows more and get some detail in the front. But if I'm going to backlight something, personally, I'm doing it as a silhouette. That's just how I roll with backlight. Here is one that I did. Oh, this was this fall out at Palisades. That is the river, and that steam coming up is from it being cold out, obviously, and the sun's kind of heating things up. And that is nice golden light backlighting through that fog and just making it look like fire. And then the front of that is just sandbar. So it's probably one of my favorite, I don't know, more favorite photos of the last 12 months, but something different. So here's what I did out at Sand Dunes. So that very first photo that I showed you was front lit with a nice golden light coming across those white dunes with that little open area in the front. This is the same image, but now backlit versus front lit. So you can go to the same place. So I worked my way at the beginning of the park, went all the way to the back towards afternoon. I took about a 2 or 3 hour break each day, went back into Alamogordo and dinked around. I usually went in town and ate in the vehicle and stuff and just hung out, picked up a few things at Walmart each day kind of thing. And then I went back about 3 o'clock each day as the light got better because I had already photographed everything I wanted to with hard, harsh light. So this was one of those that had a beautiful sunset that evening. So this was actually a trail that walked up to, I think I might have a photo here after this. I'll show you, but this was, yes, corn crib, Pamela. That's the word. Thank you. But again, I'm taking something relatively kind of boring and making it a little bit more visually appealing with backlight. So what side light? Well, side light's easy. It's light coming from the side. So it's usually going to fall roughly at a 90 degree. So straight across. Now, could you probably have a little bit forward or back? Yeah, but think of side light as your light source is, this is about a 45 degree angle from me. If I move this straight to the right, that's side light. So you're usually going to have a really bright highlight area and a really dark shadow area. I'll show you some photos here. So here we are. Again, this is kind of side lit, not completely, but I've got that bright highlight side and then I got those real dark shadowy sides down on the dunes. This is how I envisioned the entire park, photographing it all in black and white. And I actually did way more color than I did black and white. So, but again, an easy kind of representation of side light there. So here's one I did of Emma. This was actually with the studio light. So this was side lit. I used a strip box, which is only about, I don't know, 12 inches wide by 36 inches tall. So it gives me a narrow beam of light. And again, 90 degrees to her face, got that really bright highlight side and that really dark shadow side. I shot this vertically because I think, obviously I shot it vertically, but I was trying to think. I did one horizontally, but there's too much negative space on her other side of her face. It was dark. So then I went up into vertical format. So another one of side light. So this was the other gal who we photographed when we did Matthew's photos. So again, side light, not complete side light because there's more of that light on the front of her face, but we do have that really bright highlight side and that really kind of dark shadowy side. Again, they're tattoo artists. I wanted to make them kind of grungy and kind of fun. And I showed them a couple examples and they're like, yes, we love that. What I do a lot of times before I go to a shoot like that, I have ideas that I've seen images I pulled off Pinterest and I sent Matthew ahead of time or that day of. I showed him like, what do you think of these? He's like, oh, I like that, or I don't like that. Gives me an idea of what we want to do. So come on. So as we kind of finish up here, we can combine the quality of light and we can also combine like direction of light. So I got 2 examples here. So this is diffused side light. So it's diffused light. It's at evening light, which is diffused. It's softer. It's not hard light because we don't have any really hard edge of shadow, but we have a shadow side to that little tree floating there in the water. So the left side of it, as I'm looking at it, you got a highlight side and a shadow side. Again, that side light, but it's diffused light. Now that can be harsh side light too. It could be really bright on one side and everything really shadowy and kind of dimensional that way. But again, you can combine these together. And then the other one is harsh front light. So this is pretty much kind of, this was at White Sands. This thing I stared at for like 20 minutes. I knew there was an image to be had. I shot it in square. I shot it in vertical. I shot it with a polarizer, no polarizer. I did square with polarizer, vertical with polarizer. But I kind of wanted to show just like some contrast. So I have this. This originally is going to be black and white, and I kind of like the color. And then when I post-processed this last night, or no, 2 nights ago, I wanted that sky to be really dark so that white popped off, so I had a lot of contrast, and I don't know, it just wasn't doing it for me, so I went the brighter, airier side. So that is just like a dead bush at some point has died, and as time it's just fallen apart, and it's there, and now it's just a pile of nothing. It's just sticks sticking out of the sand. So that is like a harsh front light. And that is that in for the evening. That was kind of quick, but any questions at all? And I'll answer some questions if we have any. No? I always forget there's a delay on this, so everybody's probably either asked something or typing and it doesn't show me. So, but well, I'll just kind of skip ahead here. So coming up, late night exposure. So what's coming up? Well, come on, little slideshow. There we are. So next week, I know hopefully people will be excited. Advantages of raw files. So I'll go through why I shoot raw files, the advantages, disadvantages, all that kind of stuff. And please note that it's next Friday, the 17th. We're actually going to Clear Lake to the kite thing where they fly kites in the winter with my in-laws. So I'm going to do it Friday night at 8 p.m. versus Saturday. And then Saturday, February 25th, hopefully it's going to start getting warmer come March and April and obviously May. And so we're going to start talking about macro photography. So how do you do macro light, things like that. Oh, are you going, Pamela, to the little kite thing? Is that what you mean by see you there? Or, I mean, you're always on my live. So, but you know, the basics of macro photography, you know, the gear, the things like that. Oh, everybody's going to Clear Lake. Imagine that. We should have a photo walk. But we'll go through gear and, you know, tripods and things like that and how to do macro photography. So very simple, basic. I'll talk about some gear that you don't necessarily need to have a macro lens. So supposed to have nice weather, 30 degrees or above. I am okay with that because this whole El Paso 73 degrees on Sunday, and I just sat in the Jeep with the windows down and waited for my hotel room. It was nice. So, and then I had to come back to cloudy and cold and icky weather in Omaha, and I was freezing my keister off. So I am ready for nicer weather. And then this one's going to be for Pamela. She's going to like this one. I'm going to do a special live on Saturday, March 4th, instead of at 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm going to do it 7 o'clock in the evening. Maybe to get the non-photographer people. So this is going to be stories behind the images, exploring the Southwest. So you're going to see a lot more images that are hoarded on this computer over here of White Sands and Mesilla, New Mexico. And I'm just going to kind of go through and talk about my traveling and the highlights and the fun and the not so fun, if you want to call it that. And just kind of why I took some of the pictures, why things I was drawn to them, things like that. So if you know people that are not photographers, but do like to look at photos, send them on over because, you know, it's not going to be very technical. I might get a smidge technical, but I'm not, you know, if somebody asks me a lens choice or something, I'll answer it. But you know, I just want to kind of for some ungodly reason, everybody was super excited about my trip and the behind the scenes stuff and all the stuff I was doing. So instead of just cutting it off since I was back, I thought, why not do a special live? So feel free. It's out on my Facebook page. I believe already share it and let people know. So should be kind of fun. So that is all I have for this evening, man. Another Saturday is come and gone. So any questions at all? I got like 15 minutes in theory left. Any questions about light and artificial light, none of that stuff? I just answered all your questions. I know I did, right? We'll see. I'll give it a shake or so. But as always, I thank all of you guys for joining. And next, well, we did coffee and clicks this morning over at Stillwater, so that was fun. Had a little smaller group this time, which wasn't bad, but something we talked lots of things, random things, and then we got back into photography and then some more random things. So, but it was always fun. So that's going to be the second Saturday of every month. So if you want to put it as a reoccurring calendar thing, go for it. But if no questions, I'm going to sign off for the evening. I'll give it about a minute more. And I don't know what else to talk about, so we're not sitting here in dead silence. Maybe I should sit here in dead silence so it's uncomfortable, so somebody has to ask a question. But now I'm kind of excited for the whole White Sands thing. That was a really hard park to photograph. I'm so used to the Midwest and kind of things just here, and that was such a barren place. And I did get lost. I don't know if you saw that. I didn't freak out. I did a little bit, but I had to just regain my bearings. I said my wife almost became a lot richer than she is. So I was out somewhere. I had enough water for at least a while, but so no questions at all. Well, I'm going to sign off then. So as always, I thank you guys for showing up. If you, like I said, I'm streaming to all three places now, my personal Facebook page. Oh, hey, Connie, you are welcome. So I do go to my personal Facebook page now. YouTube will be posted automatically as soon as we're done here. And then, as always, Justin Tedford Photography on Facebook. So you are welcome, Megan. Hey, Corey, awesome. So that's so weird. There's like 5 or 6 people on here, and it's only showing me 2 people. Who knows? Not that I need to worry. Oh, you inspire us. Thank you. I try. I just want to, like I always tell people, I want to inspire you to create images and share them. So, but you all know where to find me if you got questions. I think a lot of my Facebook stories have expired, but I did have some photos I did of White Sands already, but I don't want to give them all away so that nobody will attend the live on the 4th. So awesome. Well, we are going to sign off. Have a wonderful evening. You know where to find me. Shoot me messages. And always, I think everybody on here is like a great, awesome supporter, always commenting. Corey, I loved your comments as I was out and about in White Sands. And Megan, thank you for coming today. And Pamela, for all your support as always, and as well as Connie, and from whomever else is out there that I don't know who didn't comment, and Lindsay and all of you guys. So thank you again. We are going to have a wonderful rest of your week. Well, I am anyway. And I'm going to sign off. So have a good evening. Thanks, guys.